It was a chilly April night when my friend Alonzo disappeared. We had been hanging out at a house party just outside of town. Alonzo didn't know many people there, so he stuck by my side most of the night. Around 2 a.m., we decided to head home. I offered to give Alonzo a ride back to his place, but he insisted on walking, said he wanted to stop for cigarettes on the way. I tried to convince him to let me drive him, but he laughed it off and started strolling down the quiet, dark road alone. That was the last time I saw him. In the morning, I expected Alonzo to call me asking for a ride to pick up his car from the party, but the call never came. When I learned he never made it home, I knew something was wrong. I called the police to report Alonzo missing. In the weeks following, the police searched surrounding areas, but found no trace of Alonzo. It was like he had been erased. No one at the party could provide any clues about his disappearance either. Alonzo's case has never been solved, leaving his family and friends full of questions. What happened to him on that lonely road? Did he get lost? Was he abducted? Or did he encounter some other unknown danger in the dark? Not knowing is agonizing. I still drive that stretch of road sometimes, hoping to find some answer, some closure, but all I'm left with is a chilling mystery that haunts me to this day. It was a muggy June night when my friend Lauren disappeared. She had been out with friends in downtown Bloomington, bar hopping and having a good time. Lauren was a student at IU, visiting from out of state for the summer semester. She wanted to experience the college town's famous nightlife scene. Around 4:30 a.m., Lauren left the last bar with a friend. They were planning to walk back to her apartment, just a few blocks away. Her friend said Lauren was pretty intoxicated and had trouble walking in a straight line. When they were about a block from her building, Lauren sat down on a corner to rest. "Go on ahead, I'll catch up in a sec," she told her friend. But Lauren never caught up. At first, we figured she had just gotten distracted or lost. Lauren had no history of disappearing like this, so we were sure she would turn up soon. But as hours turned into days with no sign of her, we knew something was very wrong. She had vanished without a trace. The police investigation revealed no leads. Security cameras along the route showed no glimpses of Lauren that night. It was like she had walked around the corner and disappeared into thin air. In the weeks that followed, we scoured the town and plastered missing posters everywhere. But Lauren stayed missing. Her case remains unsolved today, despite national media coverage and a massive search effort. Lauren's eerie disappearance still gives me chills when I think back to that summer. How does someone just vanish in a well-lit college town? What happened in those last blurred moments of bar hopping to make her disappear? After all these years, we still have no idea, and that is the most agonizing part. All we have left is the mystery. It was a warm October night when my friend Terrence went missing. He was 27 years old, working as a construction laborer and getting his life back on track after some trouble in his younger years. We had been buddies since high school and kept in touch even after I moved across the state. I was glad to hear he was doing well when we last spoke a few weeks before that fateful night. Terrence had just finished his shift and called his girlfriend from a gas station payphone to let her know he was on his way home. But he never made it. The gas station clerk was the last known person to see Terrence alive as he drove off into the night. When he didn't come home, his girlfriend reported him missing, but there were no leads, no credit card transactions, no cell phone pings. It was like he had been erased. At first, I didn't think much of the situation when the police contacted me. Terrence was known to take off for a few days here and there, especially when he was younger. But as the weeks dragged on with no sign of him, I started to realize something was very wrong, even if he had wanted to leave town for a while. He never would have left his girlfriend and family worrying like that, and he certainly wouldn't have vanished without a trace. Detectives were stumped. Terrence's truck was well maintained, so it was unlikely he had broken down somewhere. No body had turned up. So foul play didn't seem to be the cause either. It was like trying to solve a mystery with no clues. I joined search parties to comb the rural outskirts and preserves around Naples, thinking maybe he had gotten lost hiking or camping, but we found nothing of note. I started looking into area history, wondering if perhaps there were old mine shafts or sinkholes he could have fallen into, but again, no evidence he had been anywhere remote. As the case grew cold, my frustration mounted. It seemed impossible that someone could just disappear off the face of the earth in a modest town like Naples. I racked my brain replaying old conversations with Terrence, looking for any clue as to where he might have gone. I even interviewed some of the more unsavory characters from his past, hoping they might know something, but everyone's memories came up blank. It wasn't until 3 months later that a new lead emerged. Another young man named Felipe Santos had vanished under eerily similar circumstances, just months before Terrence. He was last seen being picked up by a Collier County Sheriff's deputy after his car broke down on the side of a road just outside of town. The deputy claims he dropped Felipe off at a gas station shortly after, but there is no evidence he ever arrived there. He too seemed to have simply evaporated. Suddenly, Terrence's case seemed much more sinister. 2 young Hispanic men disappearing without explanation, months apart. It was too strange to be a coincidence. I tried contacting the sheriff's office to find out if they were looking into links between the cases, but they were tight-lipped with me. I started looking into the deputy, whose car Felipe was last seen in. Collier County had a history of racial tensions between law enforcement and immigrant communities. I didn't want to think a cop could be responsible, but I had to consider it. Perhaps he had done something to Felipe, then took Terrence to keep him quiet. Or maybe there was some other threat targeting Hispanic men in the area that the police were trying to cover up, instead of investigating properly. Neither scenario sat right with me. Soon, local media picked up on the potential connection between the cases. The publicity put pressure on the sheriff's office to take action. Both men's families held protests demanding answers, but the trail had gone cold, with no evidence left to uncover. Years have passed with no breaks in either case. I've never stopped looking for answers, but the police have moved on. Every year on the anniversary of Terrence's disappearance, I make the drive back to Naples to raise awareness and keep his memory alive. And I keep hoping that someday truth will finally surface. Wherever Terrence ended up that night, I hope he didn't suffer. Not knowing if he's alive or dead all these years later is its own kind of suffering. I wish I could trade places with him, even for a moment, if it could provide some clue to what really happened. For now, his disappearance remains an unsettling mystery that haunts me every day. When my friend Erin moved to 29 Palms, I thought she had lost her mind. What was a 19-year-old newlywed from small-town Tennessee going to do out in the scorching Mojave Desert? But Erin was determined to make things work. She and her new husband John were both stationed at the nearby Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, and Erin wanted to embrace the military lifestyle. We became close during the few months she was at 29 Palms. Erin liked to joke that we were the only two girls for miles with all the Marines on base. She would drive out to my place in Yucca Valley so we could hang out by my pool, a little oasis away from the desert heat. We'd lounge in the sun, sipping margaritas and chatting about our lives and relationships. I could tell Erin was struggling at times with Joan's deployments, but she put on a brave face. One weekend in June, Erin invited me to go hiking and explore some underground mine caves, not far from the base. She was an avid outdoors woman and wanted to take advantage of the remote desert landscape surrounding her new home. I decided to pass. Crawling around dark, dusty caves wasn't exactly my idea of fun. Looking back now, I wish I had just gone with her. On the morning of June 28, Erin told Joan she was headed out to Joshua Tree National Park, but she never returned home. John didn't report her missing for over 24 hours, later claiming he thought she was just exploring the park and lost track of time. I knew in my gut something was wrong. Erin wasn't the carefree type to wander off for days without telling John where she was going. She always had a plan, and she stuck to it. I called the police and some of Erin's family members, but no one seemed overly concerned. The cops said young newlyweds sometimes have arguments and need space to cool off alone. After a week passed with no signs of Erin, I became obsessed with finding answers. I partnered with Erin's family to press the police for updates and organize search parties near Joshua Tree and the Marine base. Finally, the authorities began taking it more seriously and questioned John further. His statements were laced with inconsistencies, and he failed a polygraph test. Cops searched the couple's apartment and found Erin's journal, where she had written about getting into arguments with John and fearing he would find out she was pregnant with someone else's baby. Investigators honed in on Joan as a suspect, theorizing he had found out about the affair and Erin's pregnancy and reacted in a jealous rage. But they needed more concrete proof to tie him to her disappearance. The biggest break came in late July, when police found Erin's decomposing remains down an abandoned mine shaft in the desert. An autopsy showed blunt force trauma and a bullet wound to her skull. It seemed Joan had discovered the remote mine shaft during those hikes with Erin weeks earlier, the perfect spot to stash a body in the vast empty desert. I was devastated when investigators confirmed the remains were Erin's. She had become like a little sister to me during her short time in California. Erin was so vibrant, so full of joy and optimism despite the challenges of military life. Knowing her life ended so tragically in the place she had tried so hard to call home is heartbreaking. In 2015, John was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the outcome brought little solace. My memories of exploring the dusty landscape with Erin, laughing together in the sunshine, remain tainted by this unimaginable violence. Cutting her light short, I wish every day that I could go back and change places with her, if only to learn the full truth of what happened in those desolate mines. Erin deserved so much better than vanishing in the dark alone. Wherever her spirit is, I hope she has finally found the freedom and adventure she dreamed of.